basically going to record a little introduction here to the show and everything, and then I'm going to introduce you, and then just kind of ask you some questions. And you know, no specific time limit, but we'll probably be doing it for I don't know 20 minutes to 45 minutes, depending upon how deep of a dive we want to do. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, so I'm going to do a 5 countdown. So okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to Vapreneur of the Week, presented by Vape Mentors. I'm Norm Bauer, the founder of Vape Mentors and the author of the book Vapreneur. As the largest vape-specific consultancy in the United States, we've worked with over 40 companies worldwide and have helped more vape shops than anyone else. The goal of this show, Vapreneur of the Week, is to share the stories, experiences, and lessons of those to help you learn from others. Since 2013, we've been preaching and teaching collaboration, cooperation, and partnering, and if we plan to be around, we have to change our mindset. This show may help you do that. So for years, we've been teaching what we call the 6 pillars of vape space success through our 3 Vape programs. So today, let's meet our guest, Stephen. Your last name is pronounced how, Stephen?
Mazurek.
Mazurek. Okay, I didn't want to mispronounce it. So welcome to Vapreneur of the Week.
Thanks, Norm. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about you, about who you are, what your background is, and how you got into the vaping industry, and so forth and so on. And then I'll kind of share with our audience about why specifically I wanted to talk to you today, because, I always like to profile people who are doing things right. And Stephen most certainly will do that. So what's your background, brother?
Well, it's funny. I mean, I met you a couple years ago, and we just kind of hit it off. I was actually in restaurants for a little over 12 years. Got really tired of the working, 2 p.m. to midnight type thing. So I lucked out. I met a guy. He had a sign company, so I started working for him. And one day somebody came in, wanted me to print some little labels on one of our printers that we had. So he ordered like 16,000 of these little vape labels. And I was like, wow, that's a lot. Is that normal for you? He goes, oh, we go through that much every month. I'm like, hell, there's a business. So
Wow.
I started, I got my sales guys, and I'm like, let's start just cold calling all these vape shops to see if they need labels. Come to find out that they weren't making their own, but almost every one of the calls that I made, they said, hey, if you know anybody that is making their own juice and they're doing it right, that's what we want. We don't make our own because it's just too tough. So I'm like, well, okay, forget the label portion. Let's start making this juice. So one day I ran to the shops, got some tester stuff, and ordered some stuff online. My wife came home, caught me in the kitchen, just mixing up a bunch of stuff. And it kind of just grew from there.
So were you a smoker?
I smoked a little bit, late teens, early 20s, but not really since then. I really got into the vape just because I saw the area of opportunity, especially when I was with the printing company. We really focused on short runs because it was all digital. So these big guys that had these big presses and did these big, corporate accounts for Coca-Cola and castor motor oil and everything, I wasn't really focusing on those because, those big fish are kind of out of our wheelhouse. But we really excelled with the printing portion is just doing small short runs for little mom and pop shops, printing menus for independent restaurants, real estate agents, those type of things. So I really took that, what I learned from there, and tooled that to the vape shops, because a lot of these vape shops don't have the capital or the resources or the space to, do these huge runs of custom orders. So we really wanted to create a system and a private labeling sector to help them do very short runs with, low MOQs and very cost effective for them as well.
Well, so first off, how you got in the back door of vaping is a very interesting story, and that is through labels, because of course everyone has their own story about how they got into it. But, obviously your entrepreneurial mindset said, well, wait a second, this guy's gone through 16,000 labels a month. That means they're putting out a lot of volume of something. So that was very intuitive of you to do that. Was that something typical of you as far as kind of seeking out an opportunity and kind of smelling it and trying to see, where this all started? Or was it just happened to be in the right place at the right time and your curiosity was aroused?
No, I've always wanted to do something on my own. I've never had the opportunity or the means to do so. I was in restaurants for 12 years, 9 to 5, 2 to midnight type thing, always working for these guys and even private companies that were really focused on customer service and what they can provide as product to the customers. So I was always really in that mindset that that's something I wanted to do. I think when I met my wife, she really pushed me and, made me think about those type of things more so than I had in the past. So when I saw this opportunity, I was always looking, watching all the TV shows about, profits and Shark Tanks and all that good stuff. But
Yeah.
it just really came down to where can I get into something that I don't have to punch a clock and I don't have to work for somebody and I'm my own boss type thing. So that's really just looking for the opportunities. I mean, and now that we have, the network that I have, I've met you and all your friends and all the Safadas and the Casas and the AMSA guys. And just, there's so much opportunity for anybody out there. It's just, you got to want to look for it and you got to know when you see it, you need to recognize it.
Well, that's a couple of very good points. One is you have to see it and recognize it. I always jokingly say that I climb down a lot of rabbit holes. And, sometimes you never know how far the rabbit holes go, and sometimes they go nowhere, and sometimes they go to amazing places. But the reality of it is that an entrepreneur will smell an opportunity and will connect the dots and put 2 and 2 together. So when you started your contract manufacturing company, when was that, Stephen?
That was midsummer of 2013.
Okay, so that's exactly when I started my business. I walked into a vape shop in Newport Beach and I said, what the hell is a vape shop? Because I'd never heard of it. So how did you go about, finding your first customers and everything? Because back then, if I can think back of the summer of 2013, contract manufacturing was not that common. Most people were making their own stuff very poorly. Back then the idea of a clean room, which was usually just some room that was sequestered off with some plastic sheeting, that was their definition of a clean room. So there weren't really very many contract manufacturings out there. So did you find people were open to the idea of someone besides them manufacturing their liquids for them and giving away their formulations and such?
They really did. At first, I really just created my own brand, like everybody else that kind of got into this space did. Started going to the shops, and they loved the flavors. They were okay with the artwork because I'm not really a graphic designer. But with my background in especially the printing, I said, well, I know a bunch of designers. If you would like, I can put your own label on here and we can create your custom flavor that you want. So that actually took off as kind of an auxiliary part of my business. And, later on, 6 months later down the road, my brand just completely died because I was focusing on the private label sector. And that's what really took off because we were able to, more research I did, these people, these shops, smaller shops, they didn't have funds to get huge custom orders from, the big guys. And I was able to do low MOQs, pretty cost effective, more so now, and get them really just whatever they wanted, whether it's designs or custom flavors or bottle types and sizes and stuff.
So you started off offering the flavors that you already had and then putting their branding on it. And has that remained your primary agenda, or do most people come to you with their own formulations and you basically just manufacture on their behalf?
No, as you know, as of last August, we had quite a few hundred custom house recipes that I was surprised that at least 50% of the people we talked to and wanted their own house brand didn't have the knowledge, resources, or know-how to create a flavor. Even though we offered those options, they just wanted to pick, 15, 20 out of our lineup and give us some artwork to put their label on. On the other hand, the other half, yes, they'll actually come to us with formulations or have us create custom formulations where they're like, well, a little more strawberry in this, a little less cherry on this. So we'll go back and forth a couple times with them back before last August.
All right. So what's your take now of where the FDA is? Because obviously you are very much in the line of fire when it comes to reporting and when it comes to this, because you've got, and can you share, how many brands that you manufacture or how many different flavors that you manufacture through your facility, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is called Eclipse. It's in Aliso Viejo, California, which is in Orange County, which is very close to where I live.
Yeah, we just submitted, we just filed all our stuff yesterday, waiting to the last second again. We did a little over 6,000 flavors with the variations of the nicks and the brands and stuff. We're a little over 250,000 SKUs.
Wow. Now, did you submit electronically? I'm guessing you did, and that must have been a very cumbersome process.
No, we've been going back and forth. In fact, we were kind of waiting to the last second to make sure we had all our ducks lined up. And then when it came to filing time and uploading the CSV files to the FURLS system, we were running into the same headaches that everyone else is. So we reached out to, a couple of our AMSA members, my colleagues, and then Azim, and they kind of directed us in a way of contacting the FDA to do the, not the paper submission, because I know a couple of people that said, screw this, I'm gonna file, a couple pallets worth of paper to them. As soon as I called them, they go, no, please don't do that. Just send us a DVD and a couple of the CSV printouts. So,
a DVD?
Yeah, they wanted,
oh my
their system
gosh.
wasn't able to handle the mass uploads on our server end, or the personal end.
Yeah.
They wanted a DVD of all of the CSV files and all the labels so they can upload it on their backend server.
How archaic.
They
How
didn't.
archaic. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I was not aware of that. So here we are at the tail end of 2017. I haven't seen a DVD in probably years. My computer doesn't even have a DVD player, and I don't even have a DVD player in my house.
I went to Staples and I had to go in the back corner to find a DVD, and I had to run around the office to find a computer that actually had one. So yeah.
And as we are doing this interview right now, the very tail end of September, of course, the reporting requirements for September 30th have once again been pushed out. Now, of course, the FDA's rationale is, which is probably justified, is they say it's because of the hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, for those people who are watching this in the future, Hurricane Harvey just decimated Houston and much of Texas and the southern area. And Hurricane Irma, you know, did a pretty nasty job in Florida and a lot of the eastern seaboard and everything. So there was some validity to the fact that they said, look, we know that a lot of your records have been damaged and it's a very cumbersome process. So, you know, as of yesterday, we got a tweet. That's how official it is, ladies and gentlemen. We got a tweet from Dr. Gottlieb from the FDA that basically says they're going to give us a delay, but no one knows how long it's going to be. And again, you might be listening to this while the delay is still enacted, or it may be all, you know, yesterday's news. But the reality is that the FDA is like so many typical government agencies. They just are not prepared to do what needs to be done in order to get the job done. They enact these laws and they say, here's the requirements that we want you to fulfill, but yet they aren't really prepared to do it. So, you know, you as an entrepreneur, I mean, are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? Or where do you stand in regards to where you see the future of the vaping industry and the liquid industry?
I'm cautiously optimistic, but I am optimistic. I think, especially in the past 6 to 12 months, with the delays and the pushbacks and the timeline and the deadline changes, I think they're really kind of getting an overview of the grandeur of the vape space.
Indeed.
They're kind of taking a step back and being like, okay, we really need to kind of take a look at exactly how we're going to police this, because I was reading one article that the FURLS system, with all the crashing, they were estimating about 1,200 uploads. And I've talked to people in my AIMSA group and everything, and we're doing millions and millions of downloads or uploads to their server. So their grasp on the amount of volume of SKUs of vape juice out there is just incomprehensible.
And you know what? It's a little bit It's a little bit startling to me as well, because I remember when they had their first deadline, which was December of last year, which they ended up pushing back 60 days. They were not prepared. I mean, the numbers that I hear, and maybe you can provide some insight because you are more in the know. I mean, I'm kind of like in the know, but you are right there on the front line when it comes to liquids. So if I had to ask you, how many e-liquid manufacturers there are out there, what would be just what comes to mind?
I would say, depending on the scale and the volumes, I would say there's at least 4 or 5 dozen large scales, and I would say at least a few hundred, if not up to 1,000 small scale manufacturers.
All right, so the numbers that I hear bandied about, and so when I started my business, which is right about when you did, what really drove my curiosity was how many people are doing this and where did they come from and who are these people? So back then, the numbers that I heard were there was about 1,500 vape shops.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a while to kind of get that information. And I happened to know some people or meet some people who had a database, and that particular company is no longer in business, but there's been a lot of databases that have come and gone. So the numbers I usually hear are there somewhere between 8,000, 9,000, maybe 10,000 retail vape shops. And these are shops that are specific to vaping. They're not smoke shops. They're not shops who happen to carry vaping products. They're strictly brick and mortar shops that specialize in vaping. Now, back in 2013, when I asked people about how many liquids are out there, how many liquid manufacturers are, there was less than 500. There was less than 500 flavors out there and 500 companies out there. And the numbers I hear tossed around today are there's somewhere north of 8,000 different e-liquid manufacturers out there as well. How many of those produce their own liquid and how many of them, you know, hire people like you, I really don't know. But do you find, does that number shock you as being egregiously high? Or, I mean, what's your gut feel as far as how many people you think out there are have different brands, because that's really what we're talking about, is brand owners.
Exactly. No, I think those numbers are completely accurate. There's, like I said, just us personally, we do well over 1,000 different brands to, hundreds, if not close to 1,000 different clients. So, and we're one of only very many manufacturers. I mean, you got, some much, much bigger players than us, and I'm sure they're doing a lot bigger numbers than we are. So 8,000 brands, I would say, is probably conservative at this point.
So what do you think about where the vaping industry might be going in regards to things like CBD, the cannabis market, and what have you? Is that something that is interesting to you, or are you kind of shying away from it?
I've looked into it. In fact, the show that I met you at in San Diego a couple years ago, we were actually launching aloe vera. Our chemist created a formula for a PG-free vape. So we've been looking into different additives and researching. At this point, we really just are focusing on what we do very well, which is private label manufacturing. But I hope that the FDA gets a handle on what they can do with the vape liquid itself before they start policing and trying to go after other things like, caffeine or aloe or CBD or all these other additives that people are adding to the stuff as well.
Yeah. Well, you have to admit that it's certainly a more varied business than the printing business that you are in. I mean, out of all the different things, out of all the different things I've done over the decades, I say it's probably the most dynamic industry I've ever seen, because it's always changing. Just when you think you have a handle or some insight as to what's going on, the marketplace changes. So what are the expansion plans for you? Do you still have bandwidth for taking on new customers? Are you running a 24/7 shop, or how are you able to handle the volume you are? Because that's pretty serious numbers, man.
Yeah, we're actually only at about 40% capacity. Like I said, we moved last year into our new location, which is a little over 10,000 square feet. So our clean room itself is about 1,400 square feet with 3 automated machines. So right now we're cutting back a little bit, just due to the fact that a lot of people are getting scared with the FDA regulations that came out last year. So we have a lot of, not a lot, but probably 5 or 10% drop off in business. Vape shops are just closing up, or they want to pursue other opportunities. But the volume that we're really looking at expanding and utilizing our space is international. And then also the taking over manufacturing of brands, which is still allowed with the FDA re-registering every 6 months.
So are you doing anything with international markets?
We are. We didn't really focus on it in the past. We've done quite a bit of business overseas with TPDs in Europe. Australia is now becoming a little bit more lenient on what we can and can't do over there with their clients. And of course, Middle East and Asia. So we're really going to start focusing on that. We actually dedicated a new team of 3 salespeople to just focus on international markets.
That's awesome. All right. Well, listen, is there anything more you'd like to share? Because if not, we'll just go ahead and wind this up and make sure you provide your contact information. So if someone is interested in getting a hold of you, obviously we'd like to have that.
Yeah, definitely. I just appreciate you having me on. It was nice talking to you again.
Thank you, sir. And so what's the best way to reach you, and I'll get some more information if they need to. So the people who might be interested in talking to Stephen will be, obviously, if you have a manufacturing facility that you aren't happy with, or maybe you do your own and you really don't want to deal with that anymore, and you really want to kind of also, outsource that to someone else. That's really where his main skill set and niche is.
Right. No, our website is www.eclipseliquids.com. All of our contact information, my entire staff, my VP of sales, our operations director, we're all on there. Our emails are listed, and you guys feel free to shoot us a question, Gmail chat us, whatever you guys need to do. We got a full team to be able to answer questions quickly and efficiently for you.
Excellent. Well, listen, thank you so much, Stephen, for joining us on Vapreneur of the Week, and we'll catch you the next time.
Appreciate it, Norm. Have a great day.
Ladies and gentlemen, do not go away. We're going to be back with another show shortly. Bye-bye.